I'm Virginia Rettig. I'm the Refuge Manager at Forsythe National Wildlife Refuge, and we initiated and conducted the project.
Genevieve, I think you're next.
Hello everyone, I'm Genevieve Sarlo with the Army Corps of Engineers, Philadelphia District. I was the project manager on Good Luck Point when we issued the permit about 4 or 5 years ago.
Thank you. Scott?
Yep, my name is Scott Douglas, and I'm the Dredging Program Manager for NJDOT's Office of Maritime Resources. And at least for the last 10 years, my primary responsibility has been doing maintenance dredging projects in the Atlantic coastal zone, primarily for recovery from Superstorm Sandy. But a lot of our work has focused, because of the lack of dredge material management options, a lot of our focus has been on beneficial use projects. So this is one of them.
Thanks. Has Dan appeared?
He said he was getting on.
Okay.
Dan, are you here?
I'm here.
All right.
Hi.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, well, hello. My name is Dan Barone. I'm an associate research professor at Rutgers, part of the Center for Advanced Infrastructure and Department of Marine Science. My role in this project was predominantly on the beach side, monitoring and modeling the nearshore berm placement. And I have some data to show you for the long-term monitoring of that project.
And Joe?
Hi everyone, Joe Smith. I'm wildlife biologist at Forsythe National Wildlife Refuge.
I'd also invite our panelists. We have Suzanne Biggins from DEP and also Jesse Mosley from NOAA NIMS introduce themselves as well. They'll be part of our panel fielding questions later, graciously. So Suzanne, do you want to go first if you're with us?
This is Suzanne Biggins from the New Jersey DEP Office of Dredging and Sediment Technology, and we were the office that issued the necessary permits for the Good Luck Point restoration project.
Thank you. Is Jesse or Karen? Hearing none. I really appreciate everybody.
Hi.
Hearing none.
Oh,
Karen,
no.
I really appreciate everybody. Sorry, Karen.
Hi, it's Karen Green, NOAA Fisheries Habitat and Ecosystem Services Division, and we worked with all the folks on reviewing the permit and the essential fish habitat conservation recommendations and the adaptive management plans. So.
Thank you. I have to wait that beat for the federal lag. My bad, ladies. All right. Well, I'm so glad to have such a rich set of presenters and experience on this project to share with you today. So we just ask all of our participants to keep yourselves on mute, use the chat for questions, sit back and enjoy. Someone give me a thumbs up on screen share though.
Yeah,
thank you.
We're good. So I'm going to kick us off, everybody, and talk about a little bit before we get into the fun parts about the project, maybe the not as fun parts about getting the project ready. So Good Luck Point project, and some of you may recall how this all started. Here's our Superstorm Sandy photograph, and we, it's a National Wildlife Refuge. Pretty much the day after the hurricane, we were told, get some project ideas ready. There's going to be money coming, as there often is after federal disasters. But this time there was actually this piece that was going to be in there for what we called resilience, which was in addition to recovery funding that we got. So we quickly pulled together a package and said, yeah, we could use $10 million. And so we came up with some ideas for projects, which was basically the fundamental part was identifying sites where we could potentially do some marsh work. And remember, this was 10 years ago, so a lot has changed. So we already knew areas where the marsh was struggling. It wasn't rocket science for us to come up with some sites. And so I'm going to just give you a real quick walk by of the sites that we did select that we were concerned about. We did not do work on all of these sites or even come up with proposals. But this is Brick Township. This is the northernmost part of the refuge with that northern side there is the Mequetaconic River. Here's Maniloking. And so we had identified 2 marshes here that were clearly very flooded, marsh sinking. So those are 2 projects we did proceed to get permits on. We have not done work there yet. And then the yellow here is actually a control. A couple of these we identified some control sites on. So the whole refuge is 50 miles long. So that's I'm in Galloway right now. So that's 50 miles from here. So this is Good Luck Point. We'll come back to this site and the others will show you lots of juicy photos later. But we had 2, this is all the marsh we own there in Berkeley Township. So here's Tom's River. And this marsh is actually doing pretty well, but this marsh on the western side of Bayview Avenue is really struggling. So we worked on tidal work there and also then did some of the placement work. And so you'll get to see more about that. But we got a permit for that as well at the same time with the 2 brick sites. We also did, just as an FYI, identified some old impoundments that had been created years ago, whether they were for waterfowl or whether they were for mosquito management. And it was really with the agenda item to restore those to full tidal capacity. So we did that in Lacey Township and also in Barnegat Township with the idea of we still need to go back and look and seek to do projects for either place and fill, revegetating. So we're monitoring those things. And then one last site was the remnants of salt hay farming. We did not pursue getting a permit at this site. Again, this would be control in yellow, the project site in red. And this ended up being feasibly too far away from where we could get dredge material, not quote unquote now. It's so far inland. So a lot of logistic challenges there. So basically, we got the award, we got the funding, and first step was correcting hurdles. I'm not going to go into the federal process, but this was Hurricane Sandy, and we were writing these contracts anew. These contracts, none had been written like this really before, at least within our organization. So there were a lot of challenges there, but we kind of muddled through those. And then we got into awarding the contract. We had multiple projects, but the ones that we're talking about today, the ones that Good Luck Point was a part of, was a $3.5 million contract. We had hoped to get into construction, but knew that was probably not going to be likely. So that was all just for planning and design to get to, through NEPA. So essentially, this was the work that was done by the contractor, and then the Fish and Wildlife Service took on. We kind of took NEPA EA, like half and half that with the contractor, but we were required for fish habitat and ESA, which is quite a light lift compared to the other work that needed to be done. And then I just show this photo because this is, of course, Brick Township, Maniloking, with the big inlet that was formed after the storm. But as we look westward, we see 2 of our sites here in the back along the Mequetaconic, the brick marshes that are flooded out there, and then below the Maniloking Road. So kind of, I think this picture made the cover of Life magazine or something, and said, oh, there's the refuge. So our team, so we certainly had the consulting firm, and they came with a lot of experts and hydrologists and all the good things that needed to be done. But we also did something unique, which was we also knew we had great resources with NOAA, with DEP, with the Corps of Engineers, with the ERDIC folks in Vicksburg, and of course, Philly District. So we really wanted to bring these partners that kind of floated in and out depending on our topic of interest. But this was first and foremost a project with DOT Maritime Resources. And so it was a little clunky because usually you work with a contractor and they like, okay, we're doing the project. But we couldn't just do this project without all these partners. And we're also really on the cutting edge and doing new things. So we couldn't just move along and go for a permit, because if we didn't bring everyone along with us, we were going to really not succeed. So that was hard to manage. And so to manage that, of course, right, we have a team. We had weekly meetings for like 2.5 years. That got tiring. Lots of notes, a lot of notes. And we actually had hired on more staff. So with the funding we got, we had 3 people come on that helped us manage all these Sandy projects. But I look back now and making these slides, there was so much we didn't know then that now we're just like, okay, we know this, we'll move on. And it was exhausting. It was so harrowing. I mean, we had these conversations that I just had to, whoops, I had to make a pause and make a note of that. The conversations were theoretical, philosophical, they were practical, and sometimes a little political, but there was so many values we were bringing, you know, especially in the beginning when we were trying to form ourselves to get on the same page. We, you know, especially with DOT, like they had things they needed to accomplish. We had things we needed to accomplish. We knew there was overlap, but we were still struggling to see all the places where that overlap was. And so we had to work towards it. So it was a lot of work, some emotional work, but it really ended up working out beautifully because we all hung in there. We all respected each other, and you know, we've certainly become good friends. So a couple of those big conversations, I would say one of the biggest ones was around target elevations, which isn't nearly as traumatic of a conversation anymore. But at the time, we just were hemming and hawing, and we didn't want to mess up, and no one had gotten a permit for this before. So we were so worried about messing up the marsh. And I know as a manager, you know, we have 32,000 acres of salt marsh on Forsythe Refuge, and it is kind of messed up in a lot of places already. So my role was kind of, let's commit to something and give it a shot. And we were able to get there. Of course, we had to manage public meetings, permits. I know Genevieve's going to speak to that next, but I will say that we really all had agreed initially before we even started that we were going to seek to work together with the Corps, with all these partners to permit these kinds of projects, to permit sediment placement. The process wasn't straightforward, but we all had agreed we were going to work on it together to get there. And so in the end, you know, we did, and we'll talk more about that later, but I just wanted to share that it was a process, but you know, it was fine. And then the biggest part of it that I think came out too was that this monitoring plan, this 5-year monitoring plans, we didn't have any in place. The Fish and Wildlife Service, my office, we wrote that. So that plan is actually being used now still. And there aren't a ton of sediment enrichment projects going on, but it is the standard that we're using in the Philly district anyway. So we got to toast a little champagne and say, yay us, we got that far. And of course, the next part was, you know, waiting for the money. So that is my last slide. And then I'm going to hand it over to Genevieve Sarlo, who's going to talk about her piece.